Thanks for joining me on this journey with Michael Eric Dyson, or at least his book, Long Time Coming. We're working through chapter by chapter. We are only on chapter 1, page 2. And we may be here a while because there's some incendiary things that Professor Dyson brings up, and incendiary because they terribly, if true, affect how we look at race. If not true, then it implies that maybe they shouldn't be stated at all, because then people are reacting to falsities and reacting in some of the worst ways, feeling on the defensive if one is white and is taking white guilt out of it, on the scared if one is black and feeling that whites have it in for you. So here on page 2, in fact, the whole chapter is an homage to the slain Elijah McClain, 23-year-old young man in Aurora, Colorado, who met the end of his life at the hands of police officers. Were they malevolent? There's no indication from the description here and other parts that I've read that there is racist intent behind Elijah McClain's death. It is an exculpatory act. No jury found any one of the officers guilty of even a misdemeanor. Now, it is hard to find any police officer guilty because of the leeway that we give officers on duty. But it's not even close here, because even according to Mr. Dyson, this 23-year-old who had no criminal record and was not suspected of any criminal activity prior to this, was reported in August 2019 as a suspicious person. And when police confronted him, he resisted arrest. So though Elijah McClain may have done no crime up until that time, resisting arrest is a crime. And more importantly, it endangers your life, because you are resisting people who have cause to bring you in and have guns. And too often, there are young black men, confrontation, that all it takes is stand down, live another day. Now, maybe that injures your pride. I'd rather have pride injured than my arms broken, or worse, been shot to death. Elijah McClain was not shot, but he was beaten, and then he died a couple days later in the hospital. Police again were exculpated. Coming from me, not black, not having a history, yes, of racism from past generations aimed at me because I was black, but not experiencing it now. I do experience that the justice system is generally very fair. And unless you think the police are about to haul you off to a chamber where you will not survive their beatings, you don't resist. Live another day. Too often, we read of men under arrest who resist and can't win. I say too often because once is too often. Live for another day. The justice system is decent enough to keep you out of jail if you are innocent. And it is certainly just enough to keep you alive compared to what you might be facing on the streets with police who themselves are scared. A suspicious person wearing a mask in August might himself be armed, might himself be on hallucinogens, so that he might not even realize what he's about to do to a police officer if he is armed. Michael Eric Dyson, the professor, writes, "The history of race would yet again be condensed into an interaction between the cops and a young black anybody from black anywhere doing black anything. Yes, it was random." We will talk about the randomness of street arrests of African Americans and the occasional deaths of African Americans at the hands of police. But first, to say that any black person can be targeted anywhere at any time is unfair, because everyone could be targeted at any time. 70 years ago in the Jim Crow South, that did indeed happen to African Americans. It's been 70 years, okay? The occasional horrific shooting of an innocent African American is condemned by all of us, and it is very rare. And when it happens, virtually everyone in this country is so angered, would like to see the perpetrators dead. I, for one, would like to see the shooter of African Americans at the South Carolina church, I won't say his name, that perpetrator, I'd like to see him dead. The one who killed African Americans primarily at the Top store in Buffalo, he should be dead. He should be 6 feet under right now. And if his death is painful, good, because he caused a lot more. This is the common attitude among whites. We are in your corner, and this professor does not recognize it. And to say that a history of race is condensed into an interaction, one interaction between cops and this one young African American youngster, it's a fiction. And he needs to stop. We're only on page 2, but I hope it comes to an end really fast. Making fiction for the sake of, well, I don't know. It might be he thinks it's poetic, but when it's taken literally, we say this is not poetry. These are lies. So, not off to a good start. I'm Mark Stewart, happy to explore more with you. Thanks for listening here.